It's like Kevin has a sixth sense for just coming in here and messing with us when we're trying to work.
I was gonna say, like,
it ain't 3 o'clock; it's 2 o'clock.
No longer is it the show notes thing where it's like, hey, give me it. Now it's just random stuff like coming in and dancing.
Yeah, I mean,
music.
Kevin just came in and hit us with the raise the roof, like we're not professionals in here trying to work.
And it's like,
we got a lot to get to today.
Like, let's be honest,
this isn't a frat house.
Love Kevin, but like, he's not a dancer, man. He doesn't just walk around dancing all the time. So it's like, that was premeditated. Had to be.
Do we have a leather?
What is this?
Do we have a leather couch? Every now and then, does the office get a little bit messy? Sure, but this isn't a frat house. This is a place of business, and so I'd appreciate if Kevin Thomas would show a little bit of respect for us in here trying to do our job.
Do people walk around with?
You should do that when his show starts.
Oh no, he'll get no. Kevin will get legitimately mad at me and like will walk off the show or like throw things at me. So like, but if I did that at the start of his show, shut it down. I gotta cram it up your cram hole.
There might be people walking around with no shoes on, but this is not a frat house.
Does that make you White Goodman? This is this post Globo Gym White Goodman back there.
Oh God.
All right. Anyway, moving on. We got a lot to get to today. We got some transfer portal stuff to update. We have Mel Kiper's first mock draft. Not official yet for the 32 spots, but using ESPN's FPI to rank the teams that remain in the playoffs, like their percentage of chance to win a Super Bowl. That's kind of how they tiered that out. So we'll dive into that here in the first segment. But also a little bit later, I want to do a power ranking. Big fan of power rankings. And Cam, I don't know if you know how I view power rankings. It's typically, if it's the same sport, it's would this team beat this team? Okay, this team's above this team, right? Who's the better team? So we're going to use that to rank the teams in the state of Georgia and kind of do it as a State of the Union, seeing where everybody stands next to each other after, for the first time in a long time, you had not one but two teams win championships here in the state of Georgia. So we're going to go through, I think it'd be surprise a lot of folks who makes the top five there. So we'll do that. But again, I do want to start with Mel Kiper's mock draft.
Quick question.
Hit me.
All the teams in Georgia, not just football.
So when we get to it, I'll kind of give you the criteria, but it is, for the most part, it is all of the professional sports teams.
Okay.
It is, I think, 3 college football teams. So I went FBS only.
Okay.
And then it is Division I basketball.
Okay.
So, I mean, shout out 14-0 Savannah State women's basketball.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to, there's like thousands of teams in the state of Georgia. We got to limit it somehow. That's what we're going to.
A little bit.
I mean, Valdosta is ranked.
There's like, there's going to be some YMCA squad that's like, yo, we haven't lost in like 17 years. What are you talking about? But no, we got to limit the criteria a little bit, but I guess you can kind of do it like, but we'll do it by Twitter followers. I don't know. Either way, we got to limit it. But getting back to it, Mel Kiper's initial mock draft, right? And Kevin kind of made a funny joke about it. Basically, if this is what Mel Kiper says, this is not what's going to happen. He's usually fairly correct about where around a guy will be taken,
right,
like within 10 spots typically, but not typically the best guy to go to when it comes to the exact team. But Mel Kiper, obviously one of the Mount Rushmores when it comes to doing mock drafts and predicting where these guys are going to go. So going to go through, not going to give you the full list because it is an ESPN Plus article, but we're going to go through the top 10 here because those have been released and talked about on SportsCenter today, so I don't have to worry about getting yelled at. Any guess as to who goes number 1 according to Mel Kiper?
I would still say Aiden Hutchinson.
PJ?
I would guess that. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm guessing that's probably what it is.
It is Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
The defensive end, outside linebacker, whatever he's going to play in the NFL. It's not going to be a hand in the ground defensive end. I imagine it's more like a kind of what they have Micah Parsons playing a little bit this year, and more so of what a TJ Watt kind of a position. But they have the Jacksonville Jaguars picking number 1 overall for the second year in a row, taking Aiden Hutchinson number 1 overall. I would
say what you want, but nah.
That's the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft.
I think he's top 5, but not number 1.
No, Cam. I think he's like maybe top 20 tops. But the number 1 overall pick in the National Football League draft is Aiden Hutchinson.
Nah, I don't.
Aiden Hutchinson.
I knew who I would. I would take Evan Neal over him if I was Jacksonville. Nice secure spot for Trevor
I
Lawrence.
would agree with that. It's just it kind of makes sense in my mind. Is you just invested, we'll call it $100 million
Yeah. Oh,
in your quarterback, and it's more than that when it comes to the value of your franchise and like ticket sales and all that. So you invested that much money into your quarterback. Okay, get an insurance policy.
Yeah.
Right. Protect him with the best available guy to protect him, and that is Evan Neal, in my opinion. But I want to go through these. But there was an interesting talking point because Kevin and I were talking about this. He goes, "I hate drafting best available. You have to draft from a position of need eventually." I get what you're saying, right? You can't just draft corners and put a football team out there, right? Like
Right.
eventually you're going to need offensive linemen, defensive linemen, running backs, and stuff like that.
Every now and then.
But when it's relatively even and you don't have a guy graded, so say if they're doing the draft grades and they have Evan Neal ranked as a 92 and they have Aiden Hutchinson ranked as an 85, you got to take Evan Neal in that situation, right?
Yeah.
But say that they're graded out evenly, and then you're like, okay, well, then you draft position deep. That's fine. But to me, you got to take the best player. Right. And this is just going to come down to what do the Jaguars value more? Do they feel like they can get away with the offensive line play that they had, and they need another guy to pair on the other side of Josh Allen? I guess. I hate the drafting. I like drafting best available player. I think Evan Neal is a top 5 player. And so then when you get down to that and everything's about even, I think you got to protect your quarterback.
And if you're in a draft like this one too, that's when you can do that. Like, think about this. He's saying, and everyone's really saying that's putting Aiden Hutchinson number 1. Like, he's the kind of caliber of football player that like Jadeveon Clowney and Miles Garrett was.
Don't even
you need to get him.
Is Aiden Hutchinson as good of a football player as Evan Neal?
I don't know if he's better than Kayvon
No.
Thibodeau.
No.
Me neither.
No.
Is
Absolutely
Aiden Hutchinson as good of a football
Absolutely
player as
not.
Evan Neal?
No.
Is he as good of a football player as Kyle Hamilton?
No.
Yeah.
I think Evan Neal overall is the best
Is he
player
as good of a
in the
football
draft.
player as Derek Stingley Jr.?
Heck
Definitely
no.
not.
Is he
No.
Is Aiden Hutchinson as good of a football player as Nakobe Dean, as Jordan Davis, as
No.
Travon Walker? Even I'll ask that. Like, is he that good of a football player? No. So why he shouldn't be in that conversation?
It's simply the position you play and a few games that turn people's heads. But like really, that's it. And that's
two.
Right. Yeah.
2 games that turn people's head.
Yep.
Penn State and Ohio State.
Well,
Right.
we have to remember it is Jacksonville picking.
Well, but
It's a lot of
what I was
bad
kind of
teams
going to
that
get
don't
at.
make good decisions
Yeah.
Well,
picking at the
they
top.
got to hire a new head coach.
If they
Yeah.
want to stay Jacksonville, they'll pick
Yeah.
Aiden
For
Hutchinson number 1. But
they draft really good defensive players.
Do
They
they
just lose?
Do
them.
they? Because Tavon
Yeah.
Bryan's still on that football team.
I mean, I know
And
Jalen
he was a
Ramsey.
first-round pick.
He's really good. They've drafted some solid Miles Jack. They
Well, I mean,
drafted
you're
some
going to
solid
eventually
players,
hit some guys when you're consistently drafting inside the top 10.
but I don't think they
That's
draft
very true.
well. Though.
well, no,
I don't
for
think
sure.
they do.
All
And,
right, so-
and this is where like it's different. It's like it's not an insanely strong draft overall. There's not 1 or 2 guys I think you absolutely have to go and get. So this is the perfect opportunity
To take a
just
chance. Yeah.
go
I
and,
do think
and
it's
get
a
what you
super
need.
strong draft, just not in the typical spots. Like, I think this is a super
Okay,
strong
yeah,
offensive
yeah.
line draft.
I
I
can
think
see
this is a super strong inside linebacker draft. I think this is a super strong corner draft. There are some dudes that are going to be
It's
locked down
not
corners for
offense
a
like
while.
it's been the last couple of years.
People are
Yeah.
so addicted to quarterbacks and defensive ends
Yeah,
that
correct.
it's insane.
Well, it's the math equation, right?
Yeah.
You got to get a quarterback, and then you got to get somebody that can get after the quarterback, and then you got to get somebody that can stop the guy from getting after the quarterback. That's
Right,
the football
right.
equation now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody elite enough on that defensive end, including Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think either one of those guys should be top 2 picks.
Yeah.
But they are, because they have Kayvon Thibodeau going number 2 overall to the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions have a couple of picks in the first round here, so like, I guess this is a spot where you can say, hey, we go after the guy we have graded as our top prospect at this spot, and we took an offensive lineman last year, so maybe this is where we get after it here with the defensive end. I don't know. Kayvon Thibodeau he's the number 1 overall high school recruit, and he's shown flashes where he's super fast, can get in the backfield, be super disruptive. But I mean, was he ever Miles Garrett or Jadeveon Clowney in college?
Then he's injury
Right.
prone too.
Right.
That should scare you. But then again, Detroit is picking, so I'm not going to really go against that.
3, he has Evan Neal going to the Texans. That's a great pick.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
Steal,
if
honestly.
you just like Madden rated out the best player in the draft.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Like I
It's
saw
hard
him
to-
blocking Devontae Wyatt in the national championship game. Devontae Wyatt is not a small person.
My
Right.
Devontae
dad
Wyatt's like
texts me.
6'3", 6'4", 300 pounds. And Evan Neal made him look small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my dad texts me say, "Who is this mountain on the left side
Yeah,
of
right.
Alabama?" I was like, "If my dad takes that, he's huge."
And that's the thing. If he does fall to 3, what a steal that would be. Well, it's 2 teams that
Yep.
could very much use offensive line help, go and get defensive ends. And then you're just sitting there at 3 with a gift. I mean, that'd be insane.
Yeah, and then at 4 for the New York Jets, and their team that has a few picks as well. They have Kyle Hamilton going to the Jets. I think he's the best secondary player in the draft. Dude is freaky athletic. If you need any sort of tape to watch on Kyle Hamilton, just go watch the first game of the season between Florida State and Notre Dame and watch him. They were playing cover 2 high, and he was on the opposite hash. And I think it was Mackenzie Milton that threw the football. It's either him or Jordan Travis. Threw the football and threw it not just to the other hash, but to the other sideline. The ball leaves the quarterback's hands. He's on the other hash, comes all the way across the field and picks the football off. The dude is freaky, 6'4", 200 pounds, and can fly. I think he's the best secondary player. Might argue best defensive player in the draft. I think it'd be a great pick.
Yeah, and he's been that way for. I mean, it's kind of flown under the radar for
Mhm.
whatever reason, but he's been that way for a few years. I remember watching what was it, Clemson Notre Dame a few years ago in the college football playoff, and it looked like he was the only defensive player on the field, like for Notre Dame. And I think he might have got banged up or something. After that, obviously Clemson runs away with it, but like the impact he makes on the defensive back end is ridiculous. So.
Good pick to replace Jamal Adams too. I think that's a
Very
really
true.
solid pick. So can't argue that 6'4" runs a 4.4. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a great pick in the top 4. Number 5 overall, New York Giants. I guess they're committed to, Daniel Jones.
Can they draft anybody?
They can Joe Judge, and they haven't replaced Dave Gettleman either. But I guess they're going to rock with Daniel Jones. He's shown some flashes, but they pretty much need everything. I like this one right here. They haven't taken Ikem Ekwonu for offensive tackle from NC State. The thing I love about him is he's nasty. If you go watch NC State play, he doesn't just block you. He tries to annihilate you.
Yeah.
And he's really good at it. So I think that'd be a great pick. Another offensive lineman. So 3 out of the past 4 picks. Charles Cross, offensive tackle, Mississippi State. Another guy, instant plug and play left tackle there for the Carolina Panthers. David Ajobu goes number 7 to the New York Giants. So they get a couple of picks. Real quick there. This one, I think, from the Justin Fields trade last year. Yeah. And so I think Ajobu, again, I guess if you value outside linebacker edge rush that high, I think, in my non-Mel Kiper opinion, he could go anywhere from 20 to 5.
Right.
In that kind of a range. And then our Atlanta Falcons.
now I heard that there's a player that hasn't been taken off the board yet, and I would hope Mel Kiper would land him right here.
Who are
Derek
you hoping?
Stingley.
Derek Stingley Jr.
Man, please. I
goes
would
to the Atlanta
love
Falcons.
that.
Now, I think there's some questions around Derek Stingley Jr. Let's start with, what do the Falcons need?
Everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Falcons literally need everything. I'd hear an argument for a wide receiver here if Jamison Williams didn't get hurt.
Oh, agreed.
If Jamison Williams doesn't tear his ACL there, but even still, with the way these dudes are recovering from ACLs, he could be back by the preseason next year. Like, I mean, freaky how fast these guys come back. I mean, the fact that George Pickens was able to do what he did. So the Falcons need offensive help. They need running backs. They need wide receivers. I guess you don't need a tight end. You need offensive linemen. You need defensive linemen. You need inside linebackers. You need outside linebackers. You were last in the NFL in sacks, right? You need safeties, and you need a corner on the other side of AJ Terrell.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would honestly argue, like, out of position groups, maybe corner is the one you need the least, but
yeah.
best player still available.
And you got to pair
potentially.
him up with AJ. Man,
Like he's got a chance to be like all pro consistently
For sure.
caliber, and like he could have been a top 5 pick if he was allowed to come out after his freshman year. And then they had the weird year in 2020 where you go from winning the national championship to just completely falling off a cliff and giving up like 500 yards a game.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, I think he played in 3 games maybe, and then sat out the rest of the season.
Right.
So it's interesting because his stock was super high. Then the defense got toasted and then basically sat out a year.
Man, I to pair him up with AJ Terrell, that reminds me of like Chris Harris Jr. and Bradley Roby back in the day with Denver.
Right.
2 pretty good corners. Man, that's a good start for the Falcons. I would really love that.
I will be really interested to see, like you said, we've talked about several times different guys potentially sitting out next season and going to the NFL draft. Then, how much does his stock fall in the actual draft itself? We
Yeah.
can project all day, right? But at the end of the day, weird stuff happens in the draft. Sometimes teams make picks. Obviously, they have no business taking. So potentially, does he fall more because of being out for so long, or is he right there? Like, I'll be interested in that. I think it'd be a steal. Like, say it out loud. It's an LSU member of the secondary, and he was the best member of that secondary. That's a win for me.
Oh, he was
no
the
matter
best,
what.
He was the best defensive player on the 2019 national champions.
Yeah.
As a true freshman.
Right.
Top 5 defensive player probably in the country. I can't remember the defensive players at that time.
I think he might have been the best defensive player in the country at that
You
time.
may give him
like
Jeff
freaky
Okuda
good.
and Chase Young.
I think he was better. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
just
Okuda-
at his job
yeah.
at just being a shutdown corner, I think he was better.
Yeah. It was nasty. And like you said, being able to
Okuda and
pair that up with Terrell and needing that defense to come up with clutch stops,
Yeah.
obviously, and things like that'd be big.
And I think you need best available. I know Ahmad Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati would still be on the board at that point, and he was unbelievable. One guy I'd like to see him think about is Tyler Lindenbaum, the center from Iowa. Dude is freaky, plug and play, 10-year Pro Bowl center kind of a guy, and you need one since Alec Mack has moved on, and the rest of the experiments haven't gone great. One thing I don't think you'll see as a quarterback, Chris Mortensen reporting that the Falcons have committed to Matt Ryan for 2022. I think they're going to roll with Felipe Franks and whoever else they want as the backup for Matt Ryan there. And then next year, in a pretty elite quarterback class, I think that's when you're going to see the Falcons start looking at it. So they take Derek Stingley. Wrapping up the top 10 here quick. Nakobe Dean, number 9 overall to the Denver Broncos. They're going to need some defensive help.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. So the Jets haven't made the playoffs since 2010. And then there's a group with like the Detroit Lions and 2 other teams that haven't made it since 2016. There's a team between those two. And it's the Denver Broncos.
Since they won the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
That was the last time?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, just think about the quarterbacks they've had since then, since Peyton retired, right? Like,
2014.
They haven't gotten it right yet.
No.
They haven't.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Cody Queen writing in, shut your mouth.
With Elway it's freaking Elway as your GM. They haven't gotten it right. They had Justin Fields in their hands.
To be fair, you have been in a division with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hard to get past
and
that.
the Chargers now. Herbert is nice. Derek Carr is nice.
Before that, it was the Chargers with Phillip Rivers. So it's like you've been in a really good division.
Yeah.
You would think they would. Man, they need a quarterback. They're a quarterback away from actually being competitive.
All indications are they're just going to try to get a vet, just because this class isn't worth spending a number 9 overall pick on a quarterback.
No. Yeah, if you want to stay there for 3 more years, not making the playoffs and just staying where you are, draft a quarterback. But no, I think defensively and Nakobe Dean would be a really good fit out there.
Yeah,
as well in Denver. You think about the Denver linebackers of the past and just kind of the defenses they've had. I think he'd fit really well just in the atmosphere there. So that'd be huge.
This one I find interesting. The 10th pick, Drake London, wide receiver, USC to the New York Jets. That'd be their second pick. I mean, I think the worst defense in the league.
Yeah.
And I guess Drake London, I mean, after Jameson Williams goes down, is the best wide receiver. There's a ton of other good wide receivers out there too, though. I think the Jets could probably wait, but that's interesting. For the rest, he does the full 32. You can head to ESPN Plus to see Mel Kiper's initial mock draft for 2022. We're going to come back, take a quick break. Eventually, here on the show, we're going to get to our power rankings of the teams in the state of Georgia. All that coming up right here on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by The Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko and Cam Urshery here. All right, we've talked about this before, how Michigan State was really the first team to do it, which was completely transform their team in a positive way. They weren't the only team that were adding transfers last year, but flipped their team and showed results via the transfer portal and went and won a Peach Bowl this year, went and won a New Year's Six Bowl with Mel Tucker, and now he's one of the highest paid coaches, if not the highest paid coach in college football. So it can work. And I think we're quietly starting to see something similar happen at LSU. So Brian Kelly, after he took over, he had multiple cringeworthy moments, right? He hit me with the family and was kind of grinding, I guess is the best way to put it, on a quarterback recruit / commit on one of the social media videos. You laugh. Is
He's
there
just
any
happy
other
to
way
be
to
there.
describe that?
He's happy to be there, man.
Is there any other way to describe what happened?
No, there's no way to describe what happened. He's just happy to be there. Brian Kelly's in the SEC. Welcome to the big leagues now. That's what I call the SEC, the big
So
leagues.
the welcome to the big leagues is saying family and grinding up. Anyway, it was a rocky.
Just use a different word than grinding.
But what word would you
exactly.
use?
I don't know.
He was
Hunching.
He was dancing around.
He was,
Punching.
but his butt made contact with that player's
Christian,
butt.
we don't need to know that.
Everyone knows it. It's in the video.
Oh my gosh. Hunching. I'm gonna say hunching.
Hunching.
Yeah. Hunching. He was hunching with his new recruit.
He was dad dancing with his new recruit, I guess is the best way to put it. But since then, he's gone to work and started to put his staff together, including Cortez Hankton, Georgia's wide receiver coach and offensive passing game coordinator, has now gone to LSU, his home state, for the same position, same title, wide receiver coach, passing game coordinator. So filling the staff out, and now he's starting to add more and more to that. I guess depth is the best way to put it, because LSU is hurting. And you had a lot of guys that transferred out from that team that won the national championship, and a lot of players on there. You're like, okay, well, this is just going to keep going and going. I know Ed Orgeron, after they beat Alabama that year, said this isn't the first and only time this is going to happen. He said, we're going to come back, we're going to keep recruiting, we're going to kick their butts, to use another word, on and off the field. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks watching them really start to build their team back up, and they've added some super significant players. I know, PJ, Noah Kane, former 5-star running back from Penn State. He's transferred in to LSU. Just recently, they got Mekhi Wingo, a defensive lineman. He was an all-freshman SEC player out of Missouri. They added a big-time offensive lineman, Tremont Shorts, out of ETSU, who had a wonderful season in the SoCon this year. He got his punter to follow him, Jay Bramblett from Notre Dame, added West Weeks, a linebacker from Virginia. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a really fun kind of experiment, because we saw it happen at Michigan State last year. Can LSU, in 1 year under Brian Kelly, who is Notre Dame's all-time winningest coach, flip this around and take it from what was a catastrophic season to at least competing for the top of the SEC West?
No. Not
all right,
this
thanks,
year.
Cam. We'll be right back.
No, not this year. Only because he's in the SEC. He has to compete with Alabama, Texas A&M. I think they still have. Do they still have the number one recruiting class? I don't know, but
Texas A&M, yes.
Yes, he has to still compete with Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama, still Georgia to a degree, Florida every year. I think it's just going to be pretty tough to kind of do what Michigan State did. Will he have successes, 7-8 wins maybe? Yeah, I think that's a really good start. But, I mean, just get your guys in, get some transfers in until you can build your own kind of recruiting class and your recruits. So, I still believe in Brian Kelly. I know he's a great coach.
Yeah, no,
I said compete. I didn't say win.
Right. And
Like,
that's,
when we're in
that's where you draw the line.
When we're in
right?
October and November, are we still talking about LSU?
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to. I think you're still talking about LSU no matter
Let's
what.
play it.
But
Let's play it this way. I'm going to read you the 8 games they have against Alabama, or before they play Alabama.
like,
They
dang,
play
man,
Alabama.
They go 8-0.
it's a rough schedule
I mean,
for even
0-8.
Alabama. Like,
No, I'm going to read you the 8 games they have before they play Alabama, and let's see if they're still relevant, because Alabama, more likely than not, is just going to absolutely decimate them, even though they did it this past year.
right.
But more likely than not. They start out, I think this is awesome, against Florida State in Atlanta. on September 4th. It's a Sunday.
That's a weird matchup.
It's an awesome matchup.
No, it's
That is
cool.
we call that a helmet game. That is
Yeah.
an awesome
Yeah,
matchup.
that's
Great
awesome.
color scheme matchup too. I think that's gonna look really good on the field. Unless Florida State does something lame, like wear their like gradient black uniforms. Those are terrible.
They're not terrible.
No, they're
but I
bad.
agree. For that uniform matchup, it
No.
should be the classic.
There's
They're
some,
not
classic.
there's
bad.
some
Oh, yeah.
schools that should never wear black. Florida State's one of them. Florida State, I would
Florida
hear
State
arguments.
blacks.
I would hear arguments for Florida State. Penn State's one of them. Penn State should never wear black. I would hear
I
arguments for
agree.
Florida State having the best uniform just set in college football.
Hmm.
I know we're going like on a thing we could talk about for 4 hours here.
Right? No,
but
that's fine.
The gold and garnet helmets are about as iconic as it gets.
For sure.
When they just wear the straight up garnet uniforms with the gold pants, that's about as clean as it gets.
It is clean, but I just like things can still be clean and iconic, and sometimes for like one game a year, you wear something different. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
but
it's okay.
for that one game a year. It probably next
But
week when they
it
play
shouldn't be.
Southern,
No, see, I
not
hate,
Georgia
I
Southern,
hate that.
just Southern.
No, I hate that too. But because you're kind of going the opposite direction. But
No, when I see Georgia play Tennessee, I want to see white or red helmet, white jersey, silver breeches against white helmet, orange top, white pants.
okay, I mean, I'm
I don't
fine
need
with
that
that too.
weird double
like,
black uniform for Tennessee.
When Tennessee plays against like South Carolina, like that'd be sick to
Yeah,
have
and
the
they're
all
both
black
3 and
Tennessee.
6, and
Like,
it's fine. All right.
yeah, it's fine. But no. Like, I'm kind of with you there with the Florida State thing, but no, I'm not sure. I don't even know where I am anymore.
Yes, you do.
But
This is my
Yeah,
this is my
keep going.
talent cam. I just talked to you. Circle until you don't
Keep-
know where you are.
oh, actually, Penn State has worn black before.
They
They
shouldn't,
used to wear
though.
black and pink.
But
So
they shouldn't.
anyway,
Yeah, they should.
keep going with the
Ever
schedule
not
because
black.
like I do want to answer
All
this
right,
about
so-
LSU.
They have Florida State, then they have Southern, the Jaguars at home, Mississippi State at home, New Mexico at home, and they're at Auburn, who we still don't know how well they're going to do. We should probably go through their transfer portal because they've added some dudes. Then they have Tennessee at home, they're at Florida, and then they have Ole Miss at home.
Ooh,
And that's 8 games. They could be 5-3.
they could see. This is the problem with that is they could be 7-1 or they could be
Correct.
4-4. Like
Yeah.
because I see Tennessee getting better.
I would
Who
have
knows
them.
what Ole Miss is going to
I
be
would have
like.
them favored in every game except. I might have them favored in every game except maybe Florida.
I can't give them Ole Miss.
Well, Florida, yeah, Florida's kind of a toss up for me right now too. I think that's crazy, but I think we very well could. Like, I think there is a good chance. I think there is a good chance that LSU could be 7-1 or 6-2 heading into
And
that
make no
Alabama
mistake,
game.
if they are 7-1 at that point in the season, they are a top 10, maybe top 5 team.
Absolutely.
No, I
Just because
agree.
it's Brian Kelly and just because it's LSU, they would be in the top 10, maybe
If
top
they're
5.
7-1, they're like 5-7 in that range. Yeah,
Well,
I
I mean,
agree.
And say what you will about Brian Kelly being weird because he is. Dude can coach his tail off.
Oh yeah,
he's a pretty dang good coach. Yeah, for sure.
Is there?
I don't think he's great,
Is
but
there a better like resume thing except for like what Nick Saban has with the national championships and saying you are Notre Dame's all-time leading or all-time winningest coach?
No, there's
Like
not a
Newt
better
Rockne coach there.
Not a better resume. He's just missing one thing.
No, there
now.
is a better resume.
Well, I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
there
Nick,
is.
Nick Saban.
There's
I mean,
a few better resumes.
there's a few,
I'm
but
just talking
I
about
get
like,
what
I'm
you're
just talking
saying.
about like singular line outside of national championships.
Yeah, no. I get
I
what
think
you're
I'll
saying.
say this. I think that was a lot bigger in like the 1990s. I think
That's probably fair.
now it's probably
Has
not
it been,
as
has it been
huge.
since Lou Holtz has been there?
Right.
All
Like
right.
I just think now it's like not as huge because I don't know. They don't play the same schedule, things like that.
Okay.
So but no, for LSU themselves and with his coaching ability and with these guys coming in, and really now it's all about, even with how weird he is, it's all about getting all these guys under one roof and having them gel, building that chemistry. Because like we see it in basketball all the time, right? Duke, Kentucky, those type of teams, they get all these freshmen in there. They could be winning the national championship or out in the round of 32 because their guys can't come
Yeah.
together well. Well,
Or
now
you
with
can
all
have
this,
it like Michigan State this year where
Exactly,
you go
where
get the
you
pieces
go
need
on
and
and-
you
Yeah.
beat everybody except Ohio State, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the main thing
They
with,
have, they have two
this
losses
now.
at the
But
end of the year.
That's the
Um,
freaking Purdue.
That's right.
Who went
that's
9
what
and
they
4?
do.
Who went
It's-
9 and 4 though? Purdue
it's
had a
just what
solid
happened.
season.
Didn't Purdue beat another really good team?
They beat somebody really good.
Or did they-
Iowa.
or-
Iowa's number 2. And they beat
Yeah, they got
Purdue.
them, and then
They
we were
beat,
all,
yeah.
and then they were playing Ohio State. We're like, oh, can they make it 3 for? Oh, and they did not.
This is not an
did
exaggeration.
not
I
make
think
it.
that game was 49-0 in the second quarter.
No, it was. It was.
It's
Purdue does have a
ridiculous.
nice little QB, but I don't get the
Yeah,
Boilermakers.
that was the time of this past year when we were all like, Ohio State's best team in the country because they like absolutely annihilated Purdue and Michigan State in like quick succession.
We're all
And
like,
then we were like, oh wait, Michigan State has the worst defense in college
I'll
football.
never forget. Like, yeah, I finally believe in this offense. They lose the next week to Michigan. Like, what?
Yeah, how
Come on,
quickly
man.
it turns around. But again, transfer portal completely changing things. You have Miami down
Yeah.
there with a shell company that's going. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It just is what it is. Miami has a shell company down there right now that's been around for like 3 months and it's already paying Hurricane players like basically salaries. So it's a brave new world out there. I think the reality is though, it still comes down to recruiting for the most part.
Yeah.
You saw for Michigan State, for as much as they flipped and turned that thing around, when they ran up against teams that had the 5 stars already on the roster, they just couldn't run with them.
Yeah.
And the 2 teams that were playing in the national championship have been the 2 recruiting champions for the past 4 or 5 years. So it's still going to come down to recruiting, but I do think this is going to add some parity to the situation. But for the most part, you'll probably still see there's 1 or 2 clear-cut best teams in the country, and they'll rise to the top. But I do think this is fascinating because if this is any other year, we're talking about a 2-3-year rebuild for LSU. Now we're talking about, can they compete for that second place spot with Texas A&M in the SEC West next year? I think it's going to be fun to find out. When we come back, we're going to dive into our power rankings for teams in the state of Georgia. Give you the criteria. I think it's pretty clear guess who should be in the top 2, but who's number 1? We'll dive into it next right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by The Uniform Source. Christian Gilkel alongside Cam Ursery and PJ Zuko. All right, little experiment here. I've listed out, I think I have 12 teams here from the state of Georgia. Now, where I'm cutting this off is in football at the FBS level and in basketball at the Division I level. Well, so what we're going to do is just power rank the teams in the state of Georgia, and I need a top 5. So we have our council here. We're the selection committee. We're not gonna do what the college football selection committee does. We're not gonna get like coffee and breaks and have to sit down and watch all the games. We've already done that. All right. So I'm just gonna give you the resumes for the 12 quickly here. We'll start with Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern football 3-9 this past season, but they have hired Clay Helton as a new head football coach. I've got some good transfers in as well, and a bunch of guys to come back. So looking like they're on the up. They finished 3-9, last in the Sun Belt East. Atlanta United, 5th in MLS last season. They lost in round 1, 2-0 to New York. You have the Atlanta Dream. They are coming off an 8-24 season in 2021. Looking for a bounce back here, but still a rough year for the Atlanta Dream. All right, let's go to Georgia Tech football. 3-9 last year. 6th in the ACC Coastal. Jeff Collins still the head coach. Georgia Tech men's basketball, they are currently 7-9, 1-5 in the ACC, and last in the ACC. Then Georgia Tech women's basketball, 13-4, ranked inside the top 10, and they are projected to be a 3 seed in the women's tournament. For Georgia football, obviously 14-1 national champs. Men's basketball, 5-12, 0-4 in the SEC, dead last place in the SEC right now. Georgia's women basketball, 14-3. They beat number 2 NC State, and they're projected to be a 4 seed right now. The Hawks, 18-25, 4 games out of the playoffs right now after making it all the way to the conference finals last year. The Atlanta Falcons, 7-10, and they have the 8th overall pick coming up this draft. And then, of course, the Atlanta Braves won their first World Series since 1995, but they are waiting to hear from Freddie Freeman about that, and you're also kind of waiting on a work stoppages potentially for Major League Baseball.
Are we going 5-1? Can we agree on that? 5-1?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's all.
All right. Ken, he's very excited. So you have the resumes there, and the way I'm thinking about this is the team, if you're just talking about best at what they do in their sport, potential to win some kind of championship, whether that's conference championship, whether that's a national or a league championship, potential to win a championship, best of what they do, players coming back, coaching, all of that. Well, who would be 5 for you guys?
That's tough. That's tough because there's a lot of those that are kind of right in the same mix with each other. And the 2 that I'm debating, I don't know about you guys, but I have actually maybe some, I don't know if surprises, but anyway, the 2 I'm debating and going back and forth on is Georgia Southern football because of the
inside the top 5.
Because of the did you hear a lot of the other ones you listed?
Yeah, I could pick
there's
6 or 7 that are better.
I'm debating to 2 hard, really hard.
Okay, can I?
There's not a lot
can
of
I give you my potential
stone
top
cold
5?
lock. I think there's 4 lock solid picks in the top 4. I think 5 is pretty open.
Can I give you my top 5 and then have you guys
sure
deconstruct it or vote against it?
No, we all choose 5.
We all choose.
Okay,
I guess we are a panel. You
So
did
choose
say
your
that.
5.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give you my top 5, and then you guys give me y'all's top 5, and we'll figure it out from there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
My number 5 is Atlanta United.
Okay, that's not
Okay.
bad.
You made the playoffs last year. You were 5th in Major League Soccer. Then back to back, I have the 2 women's basketball teams.
Yep.
I'll go Georgia women's basketball, and I'll go Georgia Tech women's basketball because Georgia Tech beat them. That's the only reason I have them right there. Head to head really matters the situation. I'll wait to see when the Falcons play Georgia Southern how that one turns out. It might actually go a different way than we're thinking. Then I'll go Braves, and then Georgia football number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think Georgia has a much better chance at repeating for a championship than the Braves do.
That's solid.
I'll admit, I did what every Georgia sports fan does.
You forgot Atlanta United.
I forgot
existed.
about Atlanta
All right,
United.
that happens.
I did. It is what it is. Because I was actually debating Georgia Southern or the Hawks. Because if you look at everyone but Georgia Southern, the Atlanta United on that list, there's a whole lot of just barely under 500. Like the Hawks, the Falcons. I mean, they're all kind of there. So I'm with you there. I'll take the Hawks there. I mean, no. See, I did it again.
Yeah, wow.
I'll
You just,
take
like,
the
your
United
mind will
there, number
not let
5. And
you.
what's funny is we had the exact same top 4.
Cool.
Because I think Georgia, one loss on the year, dominant most of the year, wins the championship. The Braves, little different with how they got there and what they were able to do, and now what they're coming into
Yeah.
as well. Like I still think with Georgia, there's room to improve. With the Braves, there's still a lot of room to improve, even
Sure.
though you just won a World Series. And yeah, I'll take Tech at 4, at 3 basketball, and Georgia women's basketball at number 4.
Mine's a little different. I mean, I think you guys could appreciate. I'll put Georgia at 5. Women's basketball.
Okay.
They beat UConn even though Paige didn't play. Still beating UConn is beating UConn. Obviously,
Yeah.
Georgia Tech women's at 4. They beat Georgia head to head. I would put the Hawks at 3, only because they made it to the conference finals. Nobody expected that.
That was last year. We're talking about right now.
Yeah, but still, they made it there,
Like, they're
and I
probably
think
not going to make the playoffs this
I
year.
think I still think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll be an 8th seed, and they'll be the most dangerous 8th seed.
Okay.
But I think they need to get healthy.
All right.
A lot of COVID issues and things of that nature. And then I agree with the top 2. The Braves, obviously, they won the championship. I would love to put them at 1, but I put Georgia at 1 because they won it all. And like you said, they have a better chance of just repeating in the future. So that's my top 5.
All right. Well, the Hawks don't make it because me and PJ didn't have them inside of our top 5.
Sorry,
I
Trigger
would
Trey.
See, that's
sorry.
after like breaking it down a little bit more
Yeah.
in my head. I'd probably put the Hawks at 6, and then
That's
Nothing
fine.
wrong
That's
with
not
that.
top
No,
5.
I was
Maybe
debating
Falcons 7,
between
but-
Hawks and Atlanta
Yeah.
United for a second.
Yeah.
But I was like,
we got time if we do it quick. Bottom 5.
ooh,
I think bottom of the barrel, you can probably go Georgia men's basketball, followed
Yeah,
like
it's bad.
closely second by Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Men's basketball.
Georgia Tech football isn't close behind that.
Georgia Tech football, yes, right there. Then like Atlanta Dream, and then Georgia Southern football.
I think so. Because your description for
so
Georgia Tech.
Falcons not in there?
Falcons at 7
No,
and 10.
yeah, I think they're right in the middle. They're right
You know
in the
what?
middle.
You're right. You're right. They had 8 wins in the past 2 seasons before
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
That's the
combined.
thing. You're
Yeah, okay.
fighting like your own expectations right now. Like you want them to be better. So since they're
Oh, I
7
have
and
no
10,
What happened to
expectations.
the Atlanta Dream though? Because they were good.
Players getting old.
Yeah.
McCautry getting old. People leaving. They'll be all right though. They got some picks. They got the girl from Arizona that from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So they'll be okay.
I just love that it made it all laugh because like we're all surprised about it and probably hope it wasn't true. But like your only description for Georgia Tech was, yeah, they're 3-9 and somehow Jeff Collins is still the coach. Like we're all like, yeah, how is that?
Yeah, that
what?
was just, you can either have that as a pro or a con. Completely up to you in that situation. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's interesting because quickly, I know we got to go to break. But just looking back at 2016, Atlanta Falcons were in the Super Bowl. Braves were kind of
Ooh, that was
Yeah,
one of the rough
yeah,
years,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Braves were kind of puttering around. Georgia was losing to Tennessee on last second Hail Marys,
Talk to me about it.
right? Georgia Tech was kind of okay, but like I think was that the last year of Paul Johnson or like a year or two before Paul Johnson gets fired. So I mean, Atlanta Braves, they kind of walk, or the Atlanta Falcons, they kind of walk, so everybody else can run. And now we got to carry them
True.
into the future.
It
Yeah.
hurts. It hurts. Hopefully
They were the one bright spot in Atlanta sports for a hot minute.
for a hot minute.
And then
yeah.
Atlanta United won their championship in 2017?
Maybe for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, 2012 NFC Championship.
Yeah. No, they
were-
they carried Atlanta
Yeah,
sports
for
through
a
a very
while.
dark period.
They were the bridge.
Hey,
you know?
They carried us through the Grayson Lambert years.
why Falcons? Why?
We got to take a break. We'll come back with more right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Glad y'all hung out with us here on this Wednesday afternoon. It's Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Just making sure.
I thought it was Thursday.
This is like the first week.
For real.
Yeah, see? You're welcome, Cam. We're keeping Cam updated. I got a big Wednesday edition of 3 and Out coming up next. Brooks Austin from Dogs Daily on SI.com will join us to break down where the Georgia players could go in the draft and who Georgia potentially has coming back. Also going to be joined by Chris Gordy from the Locked On SEC podcast, just talking about NIL inside of college football. A little bit later in the show, they're going to be joined by John Shipley of the Jaguar Report. Where are the Jags going to go for their next head coach? So a whole lot coming up next right here on ESPN Radio. If you miss any portion of our show, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast. You can find all of our stuff. And of course, your home for Atlanta Hawks basketball potential playoff run.